Thank you. Mike, thank you. We understand. And
Tim and Clay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. Okay, sorry for a little late start, but I called this special meeting of the 281 Task Force of the City of Blanco to order at 11:10. I'm present. Y'all are present, so we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed the holidays. Sorry I had to keep rearranging this meeting, but I'm glad that we have so many people able to attend. That being said, I would like to go ahead and try to just move on to new business. And like we have in the last two meetings, it's kind of an open workshop type meeting where we can all just brainstorm. So I think at the last meeting, I sent out a list of all the chairs who have stepped up and asked everybody to try to figure out which chair and which committee you want to be a part of. So I don't know, does any chair have any reports that you would like to share at this time?
It's all on the environmental side. When we met at the high school, when the DOT did their thing, they indicated that they've not hired a consultant yet for the calling a reroute or
Relief route.
the relief route. They have not hired a consultant. I talked to the DOT environmental representative this week. They have now hired a consultant, and he said they will be getting started in the next week or 10 days. And I'm trying to set up a meeting with them on the environmental aspects of both the Blanco project as well as the corridor project. I told them I'd like to talk about both. And it looks like we have something set up next week. He did tell me on the email that said that their intention is to identify 5 potential routes around Blanco, and then they will assess each of those from various standpoints. What we need about to learn the criteria that they will use to determine which of those 5 would be there for a gallon be based on our input as well as their processes. But he seemed very open, and I'm looking forward to a meeting.
That sounds great.
Just something on the outdoor lighting. We did some research and working with PEC concerning the lighting fixtures they're putting up throughout their area. 38,000 lighting fixtures being replaced, and there was a lot of questions concerning shielding of those fixtures. We researched PEC. We put a fact sheet in yesterday's Blanco County News and Johnson City Record Courier that says how we can get the shields on the lights.
Great. Joanelle, I didn't know you were going to be here.
I was able to change some things around, so I'm here.
Would you like to give a report on the historic aspect?
Yes,
Notes, but since you're here.
yeah,
Laura.
on the, I had a phone conference, let's see, back when was that? It was, mid-December at a phone conference with Mary Ellen Russo. She is, one historian that came to our big meeting here. And I had a conference call with her, and, it was a really good meeting. We talked about, because they're gonna start, of course, 306 area coming up this direction. So that was the area first. So we first talked about Twin Sisters first. We talked about the 281 corridor all the way through the county. The ultimate goal, of course, is to hook into 290. That's immediate goal, is to widen it to hook into 290. And she said, oh, she wanted to know my concerns, what my findings are. And we talked about old stagecoach routes. We still talked about environmental issues, springs in the Little Blanco River, as well as the Big Blanco River. We talked about any possible dinosaur tracks, Indian artifacts, arrowheads, burial grounds, that sort of stuff, as well as historic molasses presses, buildings, anything like that. I pulled up all of that, and everything I have documented so far, we talked about that in depth. We talked, and she said, well, this project has become a lot more complicated than TxDOT had realized, because it's not a West Texas where they can plow right on through where there's open spaces everywhere. This is a whole delicate area up in the hill country. So they're really having to stop and look now at what they're going to have to do. Because I requested in writing and verbal, we have an environmental study. We have a study on historic buildings, the damages it has done and will do further damage as it widens and stuff. They have to do those studies. I requested also the springs, document all springs, our water, what it will do to our water for the Texas Hill Country, endangered species, all of that sort of stuff. She told me that with all of those requests, they will also now have to bring in all those specialists for those areas to do studies. And they will also have to contact the Native American Indian tribes to actually work with them to look in the area to see what will not be destroyed with that. That being said, they're looking at sometime in February-ish or after to kind of get started. And I did follow up with a letter saying, thank you for your conversation. So the things you talked about, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And we would like copies to see all these studies before it's gone any further. So that's where we stand.
That's awesome. Great job. I think that you being able to talk to them so far in advance is really been a benefit to this whole project. So we can get it done in February.
Yeah. And so we do have until then. I did, as they talked about how harder than they thought it was going to be and cost them more money in the long run now. I said, you might want to look at 306 and turning it around. Because I said, this is only the beginning of hard. I mean, it was very nice. We had a great conversation. But it was realistically, they bit off more than they could chew.
Jonelle, I've seen the work you did with your little map where you plotted things. If we had a way to put that on GIS, I think it would make us look more professional. I don't have
Agreed.
But you got anything in mind? But
I did go to the county. I went to the county to present this because I'm county historical chair now, and I presented it to the county.
Right.
Chris Leisman is going to look into it. I'm going to get with him to see what he can do. They were worried about, of course, pinpointing on people's land privacy, which I totally understand as a landowner. But I said on this map, as I did with Twin Sisters, it's not showing exactly where it's at. It just gives semi-locations. Now, for like TxDOT or county, they can have locations, but just for general purposes, I don't think we have to have that out there. Here's what in this area, here's what it was about for history purposes. And they agree with that. And so I think we're going to work on that to get that document, and then it can be online as well for people to see it.
Yes.
So if anybody's got any contacts that can do it quicker, Chris wasn't sure what they were going to do. He was going to talk to some people, surveyors and stuff to see. But if somebody else has some ideas, we're very open to that.
I do have a question. So I live right on 281, about 2 miles north of town. I just received about 4 days ago a letter in the mail from TxDOT saying they want to come out and look around the property and I guess take some samples. And then it gives me a portion where I kind of fill out what's there. From y'all's standpoint, I mean, is this a good thing? Is this
They have to do that, and that's one thing she did bring up for me is people started saying, hello, we got a letter saying they're coming on our property. And it's not to demolish it, but it's to say, and the people I'm working with really care about the land and the history part of it. She's actually she's background, the Mary Ellen who came, she works for Blanton Associates, Cultural Resources. That's where she's out of. They contracted out to her. So the Blantons used to have a property here in Blanco. They just recently sold it. But they're very much in environmental and that sort of stuff. So I feel good about that relationship there. Now, I would suggest on your end, coming from me, is make sure you document where your waters are, your water systems, any rock fences, old rock buildings, anything like that is pertinent to this project. Anything like that. It may be minor to you, and those of us who lived with it all our lives said, yeah, there's just no rock fence there. Well, it really isn't. It really is part of the heritage here.
like soil samples? That said there that
They have to do it's all environmental. I requested the whole shebang. Yeah, we have to look at birds, we have to look at lizards, we have to look at aquatic life. I requested all of that.
They've got 2 studies that they do. I'm not sure yet, but I understand the total significance of the difference. One is called an environmental assessment. The other one's environmental impact study. I think the latter is the more detailed, more complex. I believe the difference may be that where they already own the right of way, they can do the assessment. Where they are going to take new property or reroute something new, they have to do the impact study.
Right.
And then again, it's something I'll be talking to their environmental guy about. But
Yes.
it's important that we provide as much detail as we can, because if they choose a route and start bulldozing through it and find something that they didn't know about, that's the worst case for them, that's the worst case for us.
Correct.
If we provide it ahead of time, they may decide that's not a very good route.
Well, exactly. And we have dinosaur tracks, not that they're going to get close to it, but our riverbeds are precious with the old wagon ruts in them and the dinosaur track, the springs in the park, even though they're not going there, all of that stuff needs to be documented county-wide. And we need records of that for further development in this county.
So I know that the historic committee has been going around and trying to document all the rock walls in town and stuff. Do we need to maybe put out like a note on like maybe the chamber blast or our website saying, hey, look around your property, send us pictures, let's all start working together without. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Because there might be stuff that y'all haven't found because nobody's really looked.
There's more stagecoaches stop in this county than I ever knew about. And because they changed at different times and they can only go 7 to 12 miles at a time. And so in different time eras, they change different places. And all of those places need to be documented, whether they're there or not. It needs to be documented that these were the routes. Like we know one came straight to Fisher. Fisher was already documented on the history books. And the ruts apparently on some of the branches on 32 are still there coming to Blanco. And so there's 1 or 2 places it could have been for stagecoach stops as possible coming on to 281. And so we're trying to track all of that down.
Janelle, have you been talking to the Hill Country Alliance?
No, I need to get with
Because
them.
they have done a lot of assessments and stuff. Some of the stuff we're trying to do might have already been done.
No, I think that'd be great. My first step was to talk to TxDOT and request these in writing and stuff, because I knew if we didn't, I feel like the Blanco Historic Commission needs to follow suit and request the same thing for the city of Blanco. For the assessments on the building, what damages is done and what will be done for more traffic.
Will they repair all the miter on my house?
Maybe. You document it.
It's crumbling.
Exactly, that's what it does. Exactly what it does. It knocks out windows, it shoots buildings and everything else, and that needs to be documented to them because they need to be held responsible for the damages done. If they want more traffic, they need to say, this is what's gonna cost you.
So now what are the, other than rock walls, what are for something? to like-
Cisterns.
Something special on your property?
Cisterns. Yes,
Spring, cisterns.
cisterns, molasses presses. There's more molasses presses in all this place than I ever knew.
Old kilns.
Yeah, old kilns, and I know there's one here, and there's two here, Blanco County for sure. And then,
Anything else like the wellheads?
wells, anything rock.
Foundation, old foundation.
Oh, yeah, anything like that.
Like the Chimney Valley Road? Chimney?
Yes, yes, all of that kind of stuff needs to be documented, all of it. Maybe if you know the history of, these were the Indians, if you know there's a lot of arrowheads there, there's a lot of, on our property, we've got a whole upper park that's nothing but arrowheads. And so just down the miles from us, down where they're developing during that way, there was a burial ground. And it's supposed to be on Old Blanco River, there was a burial ground. All of that stuff is crucial to us.
Historical springs that may have been dry for 20
Yes.
years.
Exactly.
There was a
The
spring.
wagon crossings, where the cattle drives went, that's another biggie is the cattle drives.
Now, is there a form or a format that you want people to report these things to you on?
I don't do those kind of things, I just do the work. That would be great, I'm not the paper person, I'm not the computer or paper person, I'm just, let me go.
I'm seeing a lot of, stacks of, all kinds of paper coming in.
Yes, no, I agree with you 100%, I'm not that person.
I think
Why don't you and I get together and develop that form?
Okay,
Who's that person?
yeah, because I am not.
Over in the north end of town, Paradise Springs. As a kid, there, Paradise Creek runs right there. As a kid, there was all kinds of springs. We go put a watermelon in the hot summer and it would get so cold.
See, that's the stuff.
And those are all dried up. Then when I had survey done for my cousin who passed away, we went across because I found the original pennant in Paradise Creek across the fence. And so I took the survey guy because everything is 10 feet off from Rocky Road.
Everywhere in this county, everything is 10 feet off.
10 feet. Down to 10 feet. But as we were up there, he said, well, I have to have 2 pins. I said, I'm sure the other one is in the middle of that brush up here. And I said, no, I'm not going in the middle of the brush. And so they went, and I was walking along where the water used to run. And there was a perfect, gorgeous arrowhead.
See, all of this stuff is so crucial. People don't think, especially those of us who grew up here, it's second nature. It's this here. It's part of our life.
What's the first whole arrowhead
But
I'd ever found?
you think about it, people who are coming here and moving here and developers and I know we're still gonna grow, that's not the point. But the point is we protect what we have and we market that, because especially if 281 routes is around us, we have to get creative as a community of how to market this town to keep it alive.
Right.
And so we use those things.
that stagecoach stop
You
might
got
be a
it.
tourist attraction.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, there's so much that we can put out there, it's so rich history in this county. I mean, just the story of the bloody murders in this dang county is enough history to bring somebody here for. No, you think about it, the hanging tree and the,
People do travel to find that stuff.
exactly, they do, and so there is so much more we need to document and bring in revenue. You know, I talked to Judge Bray about that, about bringing in the revenue for tax base on the history part of it.
Historic tourism.
You got it.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
I'm glad you mentioned all that stuff. I didn't really even think about it, because I've got 2 springs, an old rock wall,
Yes,
2 old cisterns, a house built in 1880,
yes,
a barn built in 1900, and it's all 80 feet from the highway.
you got it. We get that documented ASAP.
Photographs and the GPS
Yes, right,
location.
we gotta get it documented, yes.
They're gonna show up and go, oh, great.
And that's what, and they said this is more difficult, and my comment was, we will make this as difficult as you need.
Well, I mentioned to my brothers after finding the arrowhead, and they told me, said there was an Indian that lived back there in the brush, and said they called him Bald Coon. And they said that he made all of his own clothing out of deer skin, Said it was all tied like along the legs and the jacket with the fringe. And said he would kind of tell them, don't go up there and mess with that Indian. Said he had to cause us any problems. That you go mess with his stuff, I don't know why he'll do to you. And so, they said that every great once in a while, he'd come down and he'd bring a can and something to trade with Papa for kerosene. And so he didn't really speak English, but he'd point to his can and go, and point to the kerosene
See,
pump.
that's a piece of history that needs to be documented.
And I never even knew, because I was the youngest of 6, so I was glad. And also Wayne Johnson's new wife found an arrowhead up there. So,
There we go.
You know, that's an interesting story because Walt Coons, that was not Walt Coons. He lived with the Glasscocks. And there's a whole story about him and everything. So who was that person? That's what
my brothers called him.
Right, yeah. No, he was very civilized. He drove a chauffeur. He was the chauffeur for Mr. Glasscock and all that. But somebody was that man.
Right,
Who was that?
right, that's what they called it, that's all I know.
Okay.
So, I didn't know anybody, or I didn't know anybody else named that, I mean, we'll have to get.
I didn't think the whole story that I know. I mean, I wasn't there.
Joe, now, when people document these
I don't
things,
think.
do you want GPS coordinates if available?
Absolutely. That'll help TechSpot. They're gonna try to get us a map to where we could actually get on it and look at things along as they're doing the studies and stuff. I request that so those who are computer savvy can actually get on there and go, oh, look at this, look what's happening. Because I mean, I was very firm with them, and I'm going to a conference, so it's really beginning of February in Austin, and TechStop will be there doing a presentation as well. It's the real places, Texas Historical Conference. TechStop presentation there on bridges and stuff like that. So I will actually see some of the ones I've been talking to there during that time. So it's
Wear
great.
your sunglasses, they
It's
can keep coming.
No, I won't. Just so you know. But anyway, we'll kind of catch up there and visit a little bit too along the way, but also help us get some more facts and things to help the situation. Because I intend to use this, like was that, what's going on in some of the meetings we'll be attending.
Ken says that the people he's talking to says that they're gonna look at 5 different routes around. Looks like they need this kind of data before they.
And that's what I'm saying, they need it quickly, they need it as quick as we can get it to them. We think we've had plenty of time, we really don't. Because, like I said, they kept saying this is a lot more complicated to Blanco than we thought.
So we need to get the word out to the community at
Yes,
large.
yeah.
Probably with the form that we need to put together in the paper that people then can. fill
Paper,
out.
online, go to house, and you know Blanco, we're gonna have to go to house on some of this stuff. You know that, Donna, I mean, I'm guilty.
We need a public gathering where people can come and explain.
Write it down and stuff like that.
Just that.
And bring our pictures.
And bring your pictures, absolutely. One of the things we're gonna do for the county is, I've got a secure in place the county to actually do files for county records now, for historical county records, and he's gonna do digital forming. So we'll actually be able to get online and do digital, research for the county itself.
Kind of like that thing they had at the high school, where they had the big map.
But local,
Put the
do it
notes
local.
and all that.
And I think people won't feel as gripped either because it's just gathering. And that's what I want to tell. That's what I tell County. I told Tommy where I said, look, I'm not after people's property. I have my own private property. I get it what it's like. You don't want people trumping all over it. But if you don't do this and document now, somebody will trump all over it and take it from you sooner or later. And so, and that's what the point I want to get across to people.
Couldn't we just put a disclaimer on a form that says the information provided will be strictly used for and will not be permission for anyone to enter the property or something like that? Because we need the information, and I would hate to think that if there used to be a spring out there, that somebody's gonna keep it a secret because somebody might walk up on it.
Well, I'd like the hanging tree up there somewhere. I want to know where that's at.
She does not work anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
Ken, is it safe to assume will they, you think the environmental people give you some idea of the general vicinity of these five
I don't think so.
potential
They
relief
just
routes?
hired the consultant. Literally, he told me, just signed the contract yesterday. DOT's not gonna do this. The
Right.
consultants are gonna do it.
So I just wonder if it.
I don't think they have a
So
clue
we
yet.
could go after information in the general
I think
area.
we need to do what Joe Nels did, get everything in the county, get everything in the county. When they say, here's route number one, we say, okay, here's
No.
all the information we know about route one. Because if we wait for them to dig up the information, they're not gonna get it.
No, they're not, and because that's how TxDOT works.
Right.
That's how these developers work, is it's already a done deal before you can get them the information.
And they put out the contract, the bulldozer shows up.
That's right.
That bulldozer driver will drive right through that spring that he didn't know was there, and he's never gonna say, look at the water came out of there. He's
How much squishy there?
He's just gonna keep going.
The thing I did ask for documentation is any underground caverns, because, the whole country is full of underground caverns. And we had a friend who was doing some bulldozing work on our property, but down the road from us, and all of a sudden they started going whoop, right down in the ground. Wow. And so they're all under us.
This brainstorming session, that Wendy says, maybe we need a meeting. Yeah, for people who don't want people trumping all over their property, we could have them in a place and just simply pull up Google Earth. Because people know where their stuff are. Brandon knows where his barn is. You get on a Google Earth, because if that's not a barn, put a cursor there and then it gives you the coordinates down there. And so that's a way that we could quickly, not document this stuff, but you'd have to have the owner of the property right there with you. to do that.
Absolutely.
And they're gonna have a lot of questions, and rightfully so.
And we deserve to answer those questions. Absolutely.
Well, that's why I even brought up the fact that I got that letters, because I think I'm fairly well in the know on a lot of stuff, but the vast majority of people that aren't sitting in this room don't know what's going on, and I even had reservations when I first read it, so I think getting people more involved is the only way it's gonna be possible, because, I mean, I fairly know what's going on, and I read that letter and I was like, "God, I don't really want people on my property, I don't know what I need to do." And
But the
so-
choice is, if we don't, they're gonna come on your property without the documentation.
Absolutely. I just-
No, but I'm not being, I'm just saying, that's what these people who are not here,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna happen to them.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's a taking issue. where they
Exactly.
already own the-
And we'll
They can
need
jump on,
Yeah.
they'll just say, we're coming on your property to do a survey,
Then you do it.
and they'll find some of it they won't find. So you might as well tell them this is what's there.
And they will do minimal survey without being pointed out.
Right,
I
and
will
they'll-
tell you that.
And they'll say, we did a survey.
Exactly.
So maybe we should, think about scheduling like a town hall type event for, the city, not TxDOT version. Just like theirs, that I would kind of, and have the map and the computer with the GPS and all of that set up maybe in, February. Get it started, does that sound,
We need to have, like,
A series of them.
yeah,
or.
After the first week is over, not like the second week. Oh, I got a troll right over there. No.
We need to have 5 or 10 laptops here. But you don't want to have a line of 20 people waiting for a laptop. So you'd have to have enough capacity to take the crowd and have a reasonable, throughput.
Oh, you can pass those, you develop those forms and pass them out in advance.
Yeah.
And that way the income can enter it, or someone after the meeting can enter it based on that form.
This might be a crazy idea, and it's probably too soon. I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington DC, and they had a booth set up with black curtains, and you could go in there and they would film you, and you could tell your story. So
We need
Anna
some
could go
more,
in the booth and
Yes.
tell her story.
yeah, we need more oral history here.
And wow, that could be powerful.
And there's grants for that. There's grants to get all that
And
done.
I think it had to be fancy. Good for-
Well, there was a big extensive oral history project done here a few years ago. And I don't know where it is. I assume it's at the county, but those things could be tagged to these historic things that we're talking about.
Library.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, some of those stories may sound like, well, that's just a bunch of rumors, there's no fact, but some of them will validate with other data. It'll be very powerful.
Well, here's a thought. Why don't you and I and maybe Ken get together and design a form?
Okay,
And when I do that uniquely Blanco article, I can share that, because a lot of people I'm hearing read that, because they want to know the history of Longview. And that, I think, is a good place to try to get information. Nobody shares anything. I'll ask for pictures or stories or whatever, and I
You
never.
have to actually go to people's
have to
home.
knock on
Yeah,
the-
you do.
Mhm.
In Waco, that's the way it works.
At least this would be an introduction, and you can keep going from there, and, online, Gmail, but hit them all. You gotta hit them all.
Well, that's why Maxine Blackburn was so awesome. Is she went to people's homes, sit on the porch and got history.
Yes.
That's how we got the history for the park. We did the cookbook and saved it when we were able to testify and not have it closed down. Is I went to people's homes and sat in their living room and talked to each one and like took pictures of their pictures and things like that because they didn't want to let them go, which is fine,
Right.
but we have to do that.
Wasn't there someone a few years ago who did some recorded oral histories that are?
A lot's in the library, quite a few of those are in the library.
Right, so there were some. that-
Roy Finch, when he was school years.
Yeah,
sort of
right,
thing.
yeah.
It sounds like we will have multiple town halls and maybe one can be dedicated to come share your stories. And then have one that's focused on where your
Data
property,
collection.
yes. So have like different types of town halls, so it's not the same thing over and over again, just have different aspects that we're focused on, but
And when they provide the data, we can say, do you know more about it? If so, make your some notes and come talk to us later about it.
yes.
Yeah, we don't need to be, well, I mean, this is great, but we can get bogged down.
Oh,
in
yeah.
a lot of
Well, you
this.
only need to be A, B, and C
Yeah.
to get going.
Yeah.
But I think we need to first let the community know what's happening, how quick.
Yes, have it, I think it's time to have another update.
Yeah.
In general,
Absolutely.
because our last one was the next stop.
Yeah.
So we're talking February.
So,
I think February, because they're gonna start after February.
yeah,
So I think we have to February.
In February?
I would say mid-February. I would say more like the week or maybe either the week of the 12th or the 19th, one of those 2 weeks.
We'll be there.
Yes, one of those is the holiday weekend.
and the 19th, yeah.
The President's Day is the 19th.
We have our banquet on the 18th. So we're gonna have to pull a lot of chairs and stuff if we did it on Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday of that week. I don't love it, but it would stick us in the middle of the week and we've already got chairs got to get done for the banquet. Just a lot.
Well, we can circle back to an actual date. I can send out like a survey and see what is best for everybody, but it sounds like late February.
She told me they're gonna start surveying, they're gonna start down on that end. They're gonna start looking at everything after, at the end of February, first part of March. That's our goal.
Would we want to consider, based on what you just said, doing south of 290, north of 290, and different time frames? Because they're not going to be able to be doing much in the north part of the county, should we? Or should we just throw it all out there?
I think we throw it all out there first and see what we get. And then we can maybe divide it up from there possibly.
When it comes to the town halls or the data collection town halls, we could split it up that way. We could be focusing, have all those laptops, have all that
Yeah.
information generally specific to the area and then keep moving up would give us, we could really immerse in what's going on.
Probably ought to try the first one, see how many people show up.
Sure.
If we get 10 people, we'll have plenty of computers, plenty of help. If we have
Absolutely.
150 people, might be different.
But I think we really start pushing on Facebook, social media of all kinds, and then newspaper, even put notices out, like, don't print out and send it in on the counters on the places who let us, put it in there.
Can it be sent with the water bill? Send out that form with the water bill? Something
I'll
else.
check into that.
Yeah, we cover the city.
That would cover this.
Well,
Well,
and
we're
so
up
is
with
Phoenix.
ETJ too.
Some in the ETJ. That's a great idea. I would get a good portion.
At least we get some.
I don't know if it would come out in time with the water bill though, because I think they get sent out.
Never a month, I mean, it is, but I think we have to set it up a week ahead of time or something.
So we would need the full pretty soon. So it might work. Does anybody else have anything for their committees to share? Okay. I just wanted to give everybody an update. I've been talking to the Hamilton city manager, and he recently let me know that they have found out that the county and city are going to be responsible for 10% of the share, and it's about $12 million for their relief route project.
10%.
10% of 12 or 12 is their 10%.
12 is their 10%. Is what I understand. And so they are, of course, not sure what direction they're going to go to. They have, they have their next in public input meeting will be this month or next month is what I was told, and they really don't have any organized groups right now that are for or against. It's just kind of up in the air. But they do have their own text dot page for the public hearing and stuff that I can send out to everybody. So it's like ours, but for them.
So I would say, so I was at the Capitol yesterday. There's a lot of discussion, rural areas, surplus. They're committing a bunch of that money to rural infrastructure and text dot money for, they're gonna focus on roads and bridges and infrastructure. So they're talking like large dollar amounts, but they don't have a plan on how to roll that out. So I would say, individual groups, contact with our representatives as those things move through the House and the Senate. Representative talked to her yesterday and talked to her a little bit, but I think he's historic and other groups also reach out. And this impacts more than just cities, I think, for to get them.
Absolutely, and all my documentation I also send to HWY's office and or Donna, I send to her office. I CC them with everything.
Great.
You might want to add.
I will add Ellen, I'll add Ellen on there.
And her area rep that's in Burnett, so I think there might be some localized interest because of.
Good. And she's come to a couple other meetings. I know she came to the Tech Stop meeting, Ellen did, and she came to several other different meetings. So she is interested in it.
And I think the committee's ought to be thinking about the possibility that there won't be no relief route, and we're all going to keep coming through Lincoln. What are we going to do then?
I'm sure that's
How are
going
we
to
going to
be,
accommodate for that?
I'm quite sure that would be one of their 5.
It is one of the 5 for sure. I know that. Yeah.
So it'll be evaluated.
But she told me that they're not going to write anything up until I think she said like late in 32, and then they're going to stop, and so everything bottlenecks all the way through and continues.
I think they're gonna, like down here where Tractor Supply is, in that area, they're gonna have 2 lanes each direction.
So they're really
Going north. Track 2 lanes each way.
Yeah.
So like from Peterson Tire to the grocery
Yeah,
store.
so it's gonna stop maybe right there and then just gonna poof in, and that's why I said, well, what are you gonna do about the damages done in the buildings and the roads coming into Blanco? And I said pretty hard on that.
And they didn't know yet if they'll have to take more land to expand the highway in that area.
So I still think, I think the relief route, I would.
Right.
Keep getting consider everything. But I think that's what we want, but I think we also said before, these plans is that other option is, I think we'd be silly to really text dot the responsibility of doing things in town just because we're not working on the road.
Correct.
So those traffic calming devices, other things that we want through the middle of town, we should get text up to, if that's the route that wins, and I don't think we vote for that, but they need to make some concessions to the city if they do that.
Absolutely.
Just say, yeah, we're not working in town.
And I look at the bottleneck part, I look at the north end, because I have a big rock two-story house. And for, I don't know how many miles, it's one lane. And then you get up, what, Dennis Moore's? It turns to two lanes where the speed limit changes. So all those people that have been behind some little old lady driving 10 miles below the speed limit, I'm gonna get around those people.
Yeah.
They go by my house 60, 70 miles an hour, getting by and slow people.
Yeah.
And it's scary. I have Fred Romero across the street that tries to cross the street to go see his daughter up on 14th Street. I have my brother that has property on both sides that tries to walk across. It scares the heck out of me. Somebody's gonna get killed right there because of the way they have set up that road.
Yeah.
But when you had your sign up, they did great. I was begging for that sign all the time.
That was great, yeah.
And we back there, we're moving around and it's hard, from the safety side of it. So what we're gonna try to do is get some real-time traffic counts.
Right.
We're not relying on text dot old numbers. And so we're gonna have to do it. It's gonna take us a while to do it because the device will show us inbound and outbound. But we put it in different parts of the city on different days to get that. Weekend traffic is different than week traffic and.
Oh,
trying to
right.
get that out. So we've got a map put together where we're gonna try to put it in different places to get that, so. Some of it's gonna be in places where it's really not serving the purpose of radar trailer, but we're using it to get that traffic data.
Right.
So if you see it somewhere, you're like, no one speeds here, I know that, but I'm trying to see how many cars. in the street.
Well, I will say, with the past year, I've seen a very real change. I used to be able to sit at my driveway, which is on 281, and wait for a few cars to pass and pull out. Now, sometimes I'll wait for 4, 5, 10 minutes before I can even pull out my driveway.
That's me. On
That's the past year.
That's right there at the park.
Definitely.
that. Scary.
In terms of the 10% matching, is that a standard text dot requirement?
I believe so. Yes.
And
On it too is under cash match is how it advances a project. So if there's a project with no cash match, it gets pushed down the road. If there's cash match, then it moves ahead on their process to line up. with-
okay, so even if Blanco offered our 110 acres that we had out by the wastewater plant as part of our match, but the chief is saying that would push that project down the road because it wouldn't be cash. Did I hear you right?
That I don't know. I don't know what they consider. I don't know if they consider in-kind the same as cash as far as where it's placed on their
Okay,
priorities to do their budgets.
gotcha.
And good and bad is that the state has a big surplus this year that they want to put in the road, so that could either hurt or help us. Depending on it's,
And that's why it's really important for all of us to contact our legislation, even the governor, and say, this is our problem here in rural. We have one Texas, rural historic Texas. That is all we have. And once it's gone, we can't get it back. And I make that real clear when I talk to all of them.
We've got two issues. We've got, what are they gonna do, where are they gonna do it, how are they gonna do it? That's one problem. The other one is, what's our financial burden gonna be? And on the one hand, we would love for the legislature to come up with a rural transportation fund or something on the whole 100%. But it's kind of two different. On one hand, we might like to slow this whole thing down or stop it, but we don't have ultimate control.
No.
The money, we need help no matter what's going to happen.
Right, no matter what.
And the city has been meeting with the grant writer, and he has provided us the rural opportunities to use transportation for economic success routes is a potential source that we're talking about going forward. And of course, CATCOM will hopefully have some sources for that too.
I have one question. I know Fredericksburg went through this. What do we learn or what do we know about their learnings from their process?
I haven't really, I reached out to somebody a couple of months ago and hadn't heard back, so I'll follow up and see if I can get more information. That's a good idea. I just, have mainly been in talk with Hamilton. They're currently going through it with us. So, I'll follow up.
What about the other cities up? Yeah, Marble Falls, Johnson City. Are any of them?
I sent out email trying to get as much information, and Hamilton has, and I think, Heiko,
Heiko and Hamilton responded to me. Marble Falls never responded to me. That makes me think they're already planning on a relief route.
I believe they have a relief route. And,
Yeah. They got the money.
Yeah,
They got the legislation that lives up there. They're gonna go relief.
so, but I will follow up with all the different communities to see where they're at in Fredericksburg. Anybody have anything else?
Do you have any idea of the scope of the project in Hamilton, how it might relate to the scope of the project here in terms of size of money? Like, are we looking at probably more than that?
It's hard to tell.
Realistically?
It just will depend on.
The amount of mileage of it, how many miles around it is.
Do they have a river they have to cross?
That's enough.
Do they have a river they have to cross?
I don't think
Because the
so.
new bridge is going to be expensive.
I know when I was at Fair Oaks, the bridge over Indiana, like Fair Oaks, they're 10%, of it goes over $800,000 just for the bridge across I-10. That's for now, 3 hours the cities.
Well, I will, y'all work on the flyer, and we'll get the first town hall, or not first, but the next town hall scheduled for February sometime, and then, we'll have another meeting in February as well. Does this time work for everybody? Thursday at 11? So we'll.
Do you think you want to do the town hall at the courtroom upstairs or at Jim of the Hills or someplace else?
Courthouse.
Oh,
He wasn't.
He's gone.
Okay, he was on there. Just to
I'd go for the courthouse because that's historic. And we could just kneel at home, having a meeting in the courthouse about the historic elements of Blanco and.
And I would like to see, and I don't know, John, if this is a possibility for the courthouse to have a lot of information about all of this on hand for people at all times. And maybe even bring some more history into the courthouse to put up about Blanco and the county, to start letting people have a visual of, let's take care of this county. What can we do to help?
I know that Noel's been working on getting more stuff. The problem that we have there is it's very difficult to mount things.
Right.
Because if you can get it to stay up, half the time they still fall down. And you can't put nails or.
Right.
So even with displays, they have very flush and up against the wall because we do have big events. We have weddings, we have things, we can't block those walkways.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of information. People come in all the time and we go dig, like, okay, we've got this.
Yeah.
So some of it we have to pull out, but there's just not that much space for display of too terribly much.
would you be able to maybe digitize stuff and have it on the TV that y'all have? And
Yeah.
going,
Which we
on
need
a
to get
loop
into
or
TV
something?
because something's wrong with it too, but yeah, absolutely.
just.
And we've got the little headphones and everything already done.
I just think that would be more education for people coming through and doing history and
Yeah,
stuff.
that would be easy to do if we could just put files on,
Just have like a museum.
click here for
Yeah.
information
Yeah,
on
you
it,
would-
just go see.
They show them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of that already in place. We just need the tubes going out on that TV, we need a new TV and then good to go.
That would be good, I think.
Rachel, we are being offered things, the commission, the historic commission. I've got 2 huge ledgers from the late 1800s to 1900s. You can blend them on this mark. where they kept, they bought soap and honey and this, and they owe that much, and then they come in a month later and pay it off. This is a whole ledger.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I
I've
was
got
just,
the one on the Wool and Mohair warehouse too.
there you go. So I was just asking Libby, is there any place in the courthouse, but specifically a room or something that you could literally shut the door on at the end of the day, and there would be displays where they can look at these old ledgers and see the names of family members from 4 generations back and blah, blah, blah.
That would be a grant available to digitize that stuff.
Sure.
Well, actually, but the physical stuff
Yeah.
is
Oh,
just
yeah.
cool to look at.
Yeah.
It smells bad, but it looks
How I call that.
yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, one of the buildings, they did the Ranger building.
I mean, it's got all that, I mean, that might be something up at Dennis's place. The buggy barn. Property
I
there.
don't know why the library doesn't have more dedication to this.
They have a shelf.
Time and money and people to
Experience.
You should get somebody from the library to be on this committee.
Yep,
To
I
help
agree.
us with record keeping.
I agree. That library, we have lots of people come here looking for that genealogy, that information, and they spend a lot of money here, spend, a lot of time here. And if the library would have that information available, it would be a whole lot easier on everybody. Because that's what most people go, is to the library to look this stuff up.
Well, they do have newspapers digitized all the way back to the 1800s that you can get online. I mean, I do a lot more research.
Right, but I'm talking-
So they started. Yeah, they have a room for it. That's it. And you have to get permission to go into the room.
And talking about having a room for old things, like I have furniture my grandfather bought at Wall's Furniture Store, and it's printed on the back, Wall's Furniture Store, Blanco, Texas.
Wow.
And it's all this stuff that I don't have room for it. I don't have space for it.
Thank you.
Oh, I wish we had a place to display a lot of these old things. Like I found so many car hood ornaments, because when the war was going on, my uncle had a service station, my grandfather had a service station grocery store. My uncle did a repair shop, a garage. And when a car got wrecked, it just got parked behind the house. Well, during the war effort, they sent men in, I was told, with axes, and they chopped up the cars. I can't tell you how many thousands of pounds of glass I have picked up. But I have found car ornaments, pieces of cars. Just this week, I was walking, there was a little round piece of metal, and I thought, I dropped it twice on the way home. I thought, no, it looks like it has dynamite. So got home, it says product of General Motors. And then in the center, it has their emblem, and it has Buick written across it. And I'm still, every rain, it's a new fun adventure.
There's probably somebody rebuilding a car and looking for that one piece.
But I have a lot of one pieces. I don't throw any of those away, because I think someday they need to go into some kind of display.
Before she sold her cousin's property, we had a metal detecting group come in from Austin, and they just said, this is gonna work. So it's gonna work. Everywhere they went, beep, 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 everywhere.
Hard. Too much metal.
Yes. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and participating in this meeting. I think we have covered a lot, and I will send out a brief overview of what we talked about in the video of the day before February. And we will be back in February again. I'm probably gonna meet before we'll have the town hall, just to kind of go over things real quick.
I'll check courthouse availability,
Yes.
because I think February is pretty clean.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so we're adjourned at
Yeah.
12:01.
What day of the week do you think for the town